Alright, so we're back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. This one is the return of the DBS shenanigans, where I take different ideas and different things that could or could not work. Basically conceptual ideas that I want to put out there and sort of just have fun with it. This one is going to feature basically taking one of the most boring decks in existence and trying to make it fun. And that might be a hot take, but to be honest, there's only really two boring decks in the format, or even in existence for like the DBS card game itself. And that's going to be Hachiyak, which is not going to be what we're talking about. And the other one is Janemba, which is what we're going to be talking about. Janemba is kind of in a weird place going to set 10 because of the 60 card deck, or the option to have a 60 card deck. I think there's some like confusion as far as that goes, as far as like the deck limit. I did a whole leaked trailer, or leaked information type thing before it was released. Probably not going to be on the best side of Bandai, but it's out there, and you know, everybody was talking about it, so whatever. But because of the option to have 50 to 60 cards, as in the minimum option to have is 50 cards, and the maximum option is to have 60 cards. And with the all of the new stuff in set 10, from new keywords to the second leader, unison leader technically, unison cards, it's going to be a little bit weird for Janemba to compete and as well as to be viable, which in every set, I would say, with the hand destruction, with Tau eliminated, with a lot of generic card options or card draw, I would say, from the Great Ape Goku and a lot of other cards within its archetype to help them draw for any deck really. Janemba is, well, not so much draw, but keeping the hand size and making sure to keep it board. Janemba gets a little bit weaker every single set basically, but on the bright side, there's no more TN, so it's sort of like a double-edged sword. The thing that I wanted to kind of bring up is all of the new stuff that, if we look, no special filter, and we go to Divine Multiverse, there's a lot of interesting things that Blue has been revealed with, which this is why it's sort of conceptual, because all the stuff for Draft Box 5 has not been released, and it is the, I would say, not so much the optimal time to play Janemba, but if you are going to play Janemba, you should probably play it during the Draft Box 5 format, which is now until, what, I think June? Right? That's when set 10 comes out? I don't know. I know it's not in March, and I know it's not in April, so there you go. Pretty Black Hole, let's talk about that for a second. If we look at all of the blue stuff, for one, it has all of the new, like, look at top 3, look at top 2, look at whatever, right? From the Universe 10, negate the attack, look at the top 3 of your opponent's deck and put them in any order, and then play a Universe 2 cost, or Universe 10 with a 2 cost or less from your hand. And there's a number of other things like Guwasu, the Jirisan, is that how you say it? The counterattack, which is a little bit more viable in this deck, which is why we play that, and as well as Gawasu, in which is the 1 cost, you look at the top 3, activate main in any turn, or on your turn, and then put them in any order. So there's a couple of combos and as well as things you have to look out for. But then there's other things like, I think there's other options, like you play this card, it's a 2 cost, and then like all the things are kind of I think the Obuni card, which we don't play in this deck, I think there's some merit to play this card. I think this is actually a really good card. For 4, it's like but you know, Janemba still has the restriction of not being able to play 5 or less, or 5 or more, that is, so it's still a little bit restricted. But this is kind of focusing on those things that you can look at the top 3, look at the top 2, look at the top 1, and kind of control what you mill, and at the same time be really, really defensive, because you did still have a few different things that are viable for him, or at least more useful, more tools, let's put it that way. So in case you weren't looking, or you were looking and you wanted to see more while I was talking there, this is the deck itself, with a few sideboard cards that, you know, may or may not be useful. We play a lot of negates in the main in the first place, so some of this stuff is just like replacing the negates that you already play. So, you know, if we look at the main board itself, it plays a good amount of the good stuff deck for blue yellow for Janemba, from the Beerus, obviously, the Bojack, Frostily Poison, etc. And to fit those, the new cards from Jirisan, the Kawasu, and as well as, I think there's one more new card. Well, I think, oh yeah, Dirty Burst, which are, this card is kind of weird, but you know. So we have the Kami for any kind of board control, especially Jiren. We have Bardock, which is a good 20k attacker for free. You draw 2 cards and you pitch 1, which is pretty helpful if you're playing the Great Ape Goku. Senzu Bean still really good, especially since you're playing a rival, and as well as just making sure to abuse the Ultra Instinct Goku Kamehameha or the Brace for Impact. Basically, you're kind of abusing those two. And then we have Dimension Magic at 3 because you already play so many negates. Dimension Magic is still good. It's just depending on what the situation is. And really, you play one of each the good Janembas, the 4-drops. They're less good because of all the counter plays, so you have to play it out, or at least plan when you do play it out. So that's sort of the thing, or the mindset behind that. Having one of is basically perfectly fine. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think you play any more than those, and if you do, you're going a different direction with the deck. And I think this deck is more reactive, more defensive, and basically willing out the opponent and swinging with 20k bodies like with Bojack, and tapping down whatever you can. And I think this deck also has some opportunities in removing a few things, maybe adding another Bojack and adding a few other attackers, so that way you can end the game a little bit quicker instead of not focusing on mill. But we have those. We have 3 of the Jirisen, where you negate the attack and look at the top 3, and then Gowasu at 4, so that way during the entire set of the game there's no surprise of what you're milling out. You're always going to have the option to mill out what you want, and that's what makes it fun. Both of these cards are pretty much adding a fun factor to the deck, and also controlling what you want to mill out. And the thing is that you get 2 from the leader, and then you get 1 more from Bojack and the Bojack over here. So you can negate their attack afterwards, or you can arrival the same turn, basically. Or at least control what you mill and then control what they draw the next turn. Or if you want to set it up where you Jirisen, look at the top 3, Bojack right after that, and then they pass the turn and you swing and you mill the 2 other cards that you saw on this, and then you play Gowasu, you look at the top 3, and you set up their next draw. So basically, controlling whatever they actually do draw and what they do mill, and then forcing them to shuffle to avoid that. And then we play 4 of the Zamasu. I think this is really, really good. Shout out to Pat O'Neill. I don't know if it's good enough to play at 4, but so far it's been pretty good. The only downside is the lack of draw, which is why you might want to play 3 of these if you have the room for it. But it's really good, so that way you can play the Goku and Vegeta Saiyan bonds, in which you can, it's basically like you remove, if you look at the actual text, I think this is pretty important to realize. I don't think it removes a keyword, but actually negates all the skills on the battle card. So you want to play this card, you draw 1, and you choose one of the opponent's battle cards, and negates the skills relation in turn. So as long as they don't have barrier, you can basically blink out the card. And then we have what else do we have? We have Bracelet Impact. I think is an underrated card. This one is so you can basically untap 1, block or combo out of a let's say a 15k, or no, a 10k, anything that's 10k combo for 1, because if they're swinging at 25, you go pay 2 and you go to 30, right, if you're a 15k leader, and then you untap 1 of your energy, so it's basically 1, and you can untap either basically a blue, yellow, blue, whatever, and then you choose 1 of your battle cards and gain blocker. So this is going to be the target for that. I was originally playing Energy Salvo, the Vegeta, so that way you can place this in your drop, but I think this is really good as a combo. And then you can use the Gowasu or the Jirisen as blockers as well. And just overall, it's a pretty cool card. Like, you can use Kami as well because it doesn't have a restriction on color. And then we have the Ultra Instinct Goku Kamehameha, in which it is another 15k combo for 1, which is just busted. And if it's an opponent's turn, you get to untap 1, and if it's your turn, you can draw 1. I think it's really awesome. The only downside is that you have to have all blue energy. If you don't, you still get the 15k combo. But the whole thing about it is so you can again abuse, defend as much as you can, even go aggressive whenever you can, because these guys can go aggression or go on aggressive as well. But overall, that's pretty much the deck. Like, there's no other card that are, there's no other card that is new to this other than, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, you play the Champa, you play all the other ones, nothing new. But as far as the sideboard, the Kamehameha is there just so you can remove anything like pesky that is 1, 2, 3 costs or less, and place it at the bottom of the owner's deck for 1, and something that isn't interactable is good. I think this is not played because it's less impactful, but when you really think about Janemba, there's not that many options to spot removal and to do it for cheap. Absolute Release Ball is just there just for more energy manipulation and just being able to remove anything without them getting their effects. I don't think this is really a sidebar card, but just something to consider. Same thing for Flying Nimbus is really good against Boo, even though you play so many negates and you have a lot of options to shut down their plays. And then we have Frieza, again, another option instead of the Undying Link or Undying Spirit Gohan. This just places in their drop or into their hand instead of returning to their hand and being played. Mufluba just really good against like Baby Decks and anything that just plays the SCR, that type of thing. And then Barrier Hope is really good just to keep your hand high and as well as to return something for Barrier. It's kind of a downside that you put it back to their hand, but at least you get around Barrier, which none of these cards really do. So Barrier Hope is pretty important. Let me know what you think about the deck itself. What would you change? What would you do? Are you thinking about the same thing? What do you think about Draftbox 5? Do you want to see gameplay? Because I'm thinking about putting out some gameplay for sponsors only. So let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new. And I can't wait to keep building some janky decks. I'll see you in the next one. Later.